Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a truly special online event today. It's called Experience Electric Health Through Sound. Repair coherence throughout your biofield to reduce inflammation and improve sleep and digestion. My name is Stephen Dye. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network. And one of the most exciting modalities for healing that we've come across and really showcased in recent years is the work of Eileen McKusick. She's a very deep understanding of the biofield, how to work with it in ways that are really based on sound intervention and intention. And what we're going to discover today is a whole different way of thinking about our overall health and well-being that begins with the field of energy that supports us, that sustains us. And if you are excited by what you hear today, we're going to have an opportunity to go deeper in a brand new course. It's called Electric Health Through Sound, Restore Your Body's Coherence with Tuning Forks, Breath, and Voice for Vitality and Whole Body Balance. And we'll share more about that later in the hour. So with that said, Eileen is really an amazing pioneer in this field. She's taught many shift programs. She's built her whole institute around this and is just a fascinating thinker, pioneer, scientist, healer. And so I think you're in for a real treat today. So Eileen, thanks so much for joining again.
Hi, Stephen. My pleasure. Great to see you.
Great. Well, we always like to start this time together with a little bit about your backstory and what really propelled you into looking into the deeper dimensions of the electrical health and how sound can help us really harmonize our whole field.
Well, it isn't something that I went looking for, but rather something I sort of fell into. I started using a set of tuning forks back in 1996 when I was doing massage therapy part-time. And from the very beginning, they were producing outcomes in my clients, even though I had no idea what I was doing. I was just exploring and experimenting. But people were reporting to me that pain that they had lessened or gone away, or a sense of anxiety had diminished. And so when they would come back to see me the next time, they'd say, "Do that sound thing again. That was really cool. And it made me feel good." And so, in pretty short order, I stopped doing massage and just kept playing with the forks. But it was something that I just did part time for 10 years because it was kind of weird, honestly. And I was in Connecticut in the 90s, and I told people I was doing sound healing with tuning forks. They were extremely skeptical and dismissive. And I was actually in the food business. I owned a restaurant and then a specialty food business. And so I just did this on the side because it was fascinating. It was very surprising and intriguing. And like most humans, I like to be surprised and intrigued. So in those first 10 years, I was just holding the tuning forks right over the body and sort of moving them around and finding areas in the signal where there was distortion. I would just stay there with the tuning fork and the distortion would clear. And I started to discover that the body was a self-tuning instrument and it just needed the input of a tuning fork to organize itself better. But one day in 2006, I accidentally discovered that there was information in the atmosphere around the body. And so I started exploring there. And when I started working around the body, my therapeutic outcomes became even more dramatic. And so I was very intrigued and started to explore using the sound kind of like sonar or radar or LIDAR or ultrasound. Right? You bounce sound off of something and it comes back with information. It shows the hidden topography. And that's what I found around the body was that there was this whole anatomy and physiology that was invisible, but ultimately audible. And so over the course of the next 4 years, I actually mapped this field. It's the Biofield Anatomy Map and discovered that different areas related to different parts of our mind, different memories, and the whole practice of biofield tuning was born. And now we've actually trained over 4,000 people worldwide in this approach, this very methodical approach with tuning forks for sound healing.
It's an exciting adventure you've been on, and I personally had some really powerful openings just when you were working on me in Peru. And I want to sort of maybe set a little context of like, what is it that happens when we have experiences that are incomplete or traumatic or undigested, that what happens to our biofield that this intervention helps to heal?
I would say that what I really discover as I'm sort of poking around in people's minds with sound, because I would say that the biofield is the body's biomagnetic field. And in this model, the body is actually inside the mind rather than the other way around. And so I can find very specific memories in very specific areas. Pre cognitive trauma under the age of 3, I'm going to find in the field maybe 5, 6 feet away from you. So the way that the anatomy of the field works is that as we generate electrical information, because everything that's happening in our body, everything we see and smell and touch and taste and think and feel, are all electrical impulses. And these are all being written in standing waves into the field that surrounds us. And just like hair, that your newest hair is close and your oldest hair is furthest away, I find information that was recently generated close to your body, and the field extends about 6 feet, and it's bounded by a bubble, just like the Peruvians say that we all have an energy bubble, right? And so that's what I found as well. And in the membrane of that bubble is memories from your gestation. Just inside that is birth. And then it's sort of like dropping a needle on an album and reading the vibrational record of someone's life. This vibrational language is very pure, and it contains all of the information of all of these different memories. So when we're combing through the field and we hit an area where we feel resistance and the sound becomes very distorted, that's a sign that there was a memory or an input or an experience there that was chaotic, that was maybe traumatic. And very often when we have traumatic incidences, we go into a state of contraction around them. So we hold it in our musculature, but it's also held in our field. And you actually feel it as resistance in the fork, which is a really weird feeling. When people are learning this and they come across that resistance, it's a peculiar thing. But all of the information of that memory is there, and you can hear it and you can feel it. But what's so interesting is that the tuning fork acts like a mirror, and it reflects this back to the body's organizing intelligence. So just like you don't know that your hair is a mess and you have a seed in your teeth until you look in a mirror, until you have a reflection, right? And then all of us have pretty much the same impulse, which is when we see ourselves, when we perceive ourselves out of order, our first impulse is to bring ourselves back into order. And we use that reflection to fix our hair, to get the seed out. Well, your body's organizing intelligence does the exact same thing when the tuning fork is amplifying and reflecting and mirroring some kind of distortion that's present. Body will use that steady rhythm, that steady tone to organize itself. It will harmonize that distortion. Now, generally, there's some kind of pattern of tension in the body that is associated with that. And patterns of tension inhibit flow and function. So when we relax, the body is able to repair itself. It's able to move fluids and information more readily. So what happens is people very often experience a relief of symptoms, whether it's pain, anxiety, digestive woes, that as that tension from that contraction to that difficult imprint lets go.
That's really fascinating. I think that's a deeper understanding than I've had before, is that you're not actually sort of fixing or shifting things from the outside. You're actually just eliciting the body's own kind of electric intelligence to sort of reorient by that mirroring. That's really fascinating. So that sort of implies that our natural state is to be more ordered, harmonic, and that it's just simply a sort of a remembrance in a way, rather than sort of a healing in a way.
Yes, exactly. You are the one doing the work. I'm just finding the areas where you're out of whack and then just supporting you in putting yourself in order. Our bodies are designed to heal. We know that if you get a cut, that it heals itself. So it's the same intelligence that heals. Our factory settings are for coherence, for order, and for high levels of functionality. But I like to use the metaphor that we're all like these magnificent Stradivariuses that have been terribly mishandled. And we're not broken, we're just out of tune. And we can be retuned back to a place where the music that we make is actually more beautiful and harmonious.
Hmm. It's a very empowering perspective to see ourselves as a Stradivarius that's just been misaligned or mistuned. And I like that you're sharing about how the contraction of the muscles and the sort of the pattern. It's almost like the experiences aren't complete in a certain way, or we kind of contract against their completion, and this helps to sort of like complete the experience. It sounds like.
Yes, exactly. Because the way the body works is in compression and release. That's how your lungs work. That's how your heart works. But when we go into a compression or a contraction that we don't have the opportunity to release, then it stays there. It gets into the fascia, into the musculature. And so giving the body the opportunity to complete that movement to resolution is pretty much fundamentally what we do. It's really just relaxation. At the end of the day, the only thing that we say about this is that we're helping the body to release subconscious tension.
Hmm. It's very simple but very profound. How does this relate with, some of the mappings like the chakra system and some of the toroidal energy fields? Like, how does your investigation sort of map onto some other kind of traditional energy systems?
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely discovered the field as a Taurus, which surprised me because this was back in what it was 2006 when I started exploring the field. And prior to that, the only renderings of the human energy field that I had seen were like the koshas, where there's a subtle body that's dense close to the body, and then they become finer and finer as you move away. But I had never seen a rendering that actually had a membrane or a boundary. And so when I discovered that membrane, and I could tell that it was a membrane because it was an area of greater charge, the tuning fork would get louder in that area. The resistance would be stronger. I couldn't move that energy. It just sort of stayed there. And it sort of dawned on me that it was a bubble. And then later dawned on me that it was a torus. And this is a shape we see fractally at many levels, sort of how life self-organizes. So it really makes sense that it would be that way. As far as chakras go, my very first set of tuning forks was the C major scale. And it came in a little tiny instruction book and it said use C over the root chakra, D over the sacral chakra, and so on. And what I found was is that in these energy centers, there really was more energy. And then I learned that every place where there's a chakra, there's a nerve plexus. So there's more electrical activity within the body. It would make sense that there's more charge within the magnetic field that surrounds the body as well. So it does line up with these other perceptions and traditions.
Hmm. I wonder if you want to share anything about some of also, you've got the layers, how far away from the body, sort of give some indication of chronology, and then also lineage too. I know that's an interesting component that you see this sort of mother and father lines kind of showing up in this. Maybe share a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sort of like rings in a tree in that you can tell the age, right, by the amount of rings. So if I'm working on someone who's 60 years old, for example, I'm going to find memories that were generated when they were 30, about 3 feet away from them. At the edge of their field, if gestation is 6 feet away, then age 30 is exactly halfway. So it's pretty easy to plot what age a particular memory was generated at, depending on how far away we find it from the body. And the field of a 10-year-old is about the same size as the field of an 80-year-old. But the hard drive of an 80-year-old is much more full of information. There's a lot more compression in the files. So,
So the
so
rings
that,
kind of get tighter over time.
yeah, exactly. It gets tighter over time. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. Well, so how does this then translate into if you noticing where you have issues in the body, and then how do you then intervene with this kind of biofield tuning approach?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I observed in the process of mapping the field was that people would come in to see me, usually because they had a physical ailment. Let's say they had right hip pain. And what I started to observe was that everybody who had right hip pain had the same mental tendency to overthink about the future, to overdo. I call it busy mind, busy body. and maybe have running to-do lists or an inner taskmaster, a tendency to always be projecting themselves into the future and all the things that they had to do, meaning that their mind was not hanging out in the midline of the present moment, but rather regularly projecting into the future. And so that would take the magnetic field, because our mind really is electromagnetic, and wherever our mind goes actually informs different parts of the body. Everybody I would see who had left shoulder pain was carrying around a burden of sadness, of grief, or depression that was unexpressed. And so kind of creating a weight in that part of their biofield anatomy. Everybody who had right shoulder issues had a tendency to say yes when they meant no, to over accommodate, to be a people pleaser. That kind of behavior often leads to resentment. And so in biofield tuning, we work with this premise that magnetic fields guide and inform electric currents. Most of us know that we have electricity running through our body. It beats our heart, our brain waves, our blood, our bones, our cell membranes, right? There is definitely an electric current running through us. So anything that has an electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And the human body is no different. And that's the same thing as an aura or an energy field. I just use the term biofield because I'm a scientist, and that's the approved term for that. So what we do in biofield tuning is what we call magnetic field adjustments, where we use the tuning fork to help guide the way that that magnetic flow is moving in the body. And we find where the energy is all bunched up in the field, because you can sense that resistance, and then help guide it. The tuning fork acts almost like a magnet, and we bring it back to the midline. Now, that changes the way that electricity is flowing through the body. Very often, pain is a consequence of too much current through the wires. And so we're essentially rewiring the way energy is moving through our minds. And it's all a process of coming back to now. The aim of sound healing throughout millennia has been to bring you to a state of relaxed, aware presence, whether it's through bells or gongs or chants or mantras or tingshaws. There's no end of sound healing practices that have been present in every culture. And what we're doing with tuning forks is the exact same. It's an alignment of the electromagnetic body and a bringing into this relaxed, aware, present moment experience of self.
Now, when you have notice all these specific patterns associated with the right shoulder or other shoulder, is it important for people to become aware of the belief systems or the sort of the recurring patterns, or can you just address things on the kind of electrical health level and it tends to dissipate the other manifestations?
Well, that's the usefulness of the biofield anatomy map, is that we can point out to people, according to the map, this area may relate to this particular tendency. Is that something that you see that you do? And people will always say, oh, yes, I do. And so then I'll say something like, well, next time that right hip starts to flare, bring your awareness back to now. Take some breaths, center yourself. So it really becomes like a training of the mind, that the body is this feedback loop that's showing you where you are going out of balance. And then learning to use your own mind from the inside to correct yourself, so that you don't become dependent on your tuner to fix you every time, to understand the agency that all healing is ultimately self-healing, and that so much of what goes wrong in our body is a consequence of bad wiring from early difficult inputs of trauma, because energy tends to flow along established pathways. And the tracks that get laid down early through no fault of our own often just become the way that our mind works. And so this is an interesting opportunity to literally rewire the pathways of information flow in your subconscious mind. Because so many people really struggle with a disconnect between their conscious mind and their unconscious mind. And so when we can bring them into alignment, it creates a lot more freedom to make different and better choices.
Super cool. I love your insights. We said on the page that we would talk a little bit about improving our signal to noise ratio, which I don't even actually know what that implies. So I want to hear, like, how do you use what you're talking about to sort of really do that deeper fine tuning of getting the signal versus noise.
Mhm. Well, if you think about our electrical system and the movement of energy through our wiring, uh, that if our, we've taken a lot of hits, for example, we had difficult parents or difficult older siblings, or we're in a war zone or have been in car accidents, every place where we get dented makes it difficult for the signal to flow properly, and it becomes full of static and noise. You and I remember, Stephen, TVs where we had to uh, move the antennas to get the picture, the snow out of the picture on the television, or dial in a radio station so that the crackling is out of it. Now, that's pretty much the same as our body. And we all know how annoying it is to listen to a radio station with static in it. We really crave that clear signal. And so when our own system has a lot of static or noise in it, it can put us on edge, make us dysregulated, make it hard to relax, give you a feeling like you have ants in your pants, and in worst cases, drive people to addiction to try to kill the noise, to try to stop the pain. And so, what the tuning forks do is just simply provide the body with an opportunity to tune itself, to adjust its own rabbit ears, its own dial, so that it hears its own signal instead of the noise. It's a literally a retuning into the clearer part of the signal, which people identify as self. And so often when I've worked with people, they say to me, I feel like myself again, because the discomfort if you've got something like a car alarm going off nearby. We just can't function when there's noise, but when that silence comes back, then we're able to expand into more of our potential and have a better attitude, quite frankly.
Well, this is truly fascinating. And Eileen, I want to give you some space and time to give us a bit of a demonstration and do a little tuning and journey with us right now.
Yeah, okay, great. I can do that. I'll pull out my tuning forks. I do have to change my settings, so I'm just going to do that right now. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a few of my tuning forks to just introduce you to what the forks sound like. We all have had the experience of being moved by music. Music can move us to cry, it can move us to chills, it can move us to dance. And a tuning fork is an instrument. It's just a single tone, but it definitely still has the power to move you. And just keeping in mind that each fork might resonate different parts of your body. You might become aware of tension you've been holding. The sound likes to get in and open up space between molecules in your body. So you might start to find yourself maybe yawning or relaxing. People who are very somatically aware can often feel it right away. But if we haven't been comfortable being in our own body and we're more in our head, then it isn't as easy to feel it. But I've certainly found when I work with people over time, or if we're doing a 7-week session, I might not feel it so much in the beginning, but as time goes on, you start to relax more into it. You feel how the sound invites your body to let go, to start to move and experience itself in different ways. So I'm going to start off with my primary tuning fork, which is 174 hertz. And I'm just going to listen into the group field of everyone who is going to watch this video. And the way that I work is the tuning forks give me feedback about whatever noise is in the signal, sort of the apex of the bell curve of the group. And I narrate what I'm noticing and feeling. In this work, we really ascribe to the saying, you have to feel it to heal it. Very often in this work, we go through a spell of discomfort before that releases and relaxes. So if any kind of discomfort comes up, just stay curious about it and we will move through it. Okay, so I'd just like to invite you to settle into your seat, feel your feet on the floor, and just feel your butt in your chair. And start to bring your breath just deeper with each breath into the belly so that you finally get that breath all the way down to the pelvic floor. And imagine that you can send the energy of that breath down the legs and out the feet with each exhale. Just bringing yourself into a place of curiosity and observation. Okay, here we go. And for those who are wondering, I'm using a hockey puck to activate the tuning fork. So, Stephen, just in those first few strikes, what I hear is a kind of heaviness. I think there's so much pressure pushing down on us in the world right now. It's making people exhausted, overburdened, dysregulated. And so that's what's coming through is this kind of like, ugh.
Yeah,
Like, how
there's
much
definitely
more
that
can we
going
take?
on.
Yeah, it's really going on, right? So initially, the tuning forks are just going to resonate with whatever's going on and the sort of general sentiment, right? So I would say it's heavy, and that we were never designed to take in so much information and so much difficulty, and so people are burdened. Not only with what's going on in the world, but many people are struggling within their own families, struggling financially. There's so much unknown coming, right? So the burden of uncertainty is also there. So I'm going to keep going with this particular fork, and we're just going to observe if it starts to change as we keep listening. Also, in this one, there's a lot of anxiety and fear. It's got a kind of kind of undertone of I'm holding my breath, I'm tightening my muscles, I'm nervous, I'm scared about what is happening or what might happen. You know, we certainly know that anxiety is very rampant in the world, and anxiety is rhythmic. It's the body kind of doing a double beat. And so the sound just reflects that back to you. You're like, hey, body, you're tense and burdened. And this is that part of you got to feel it to heal it. So all of these different emotions do come through when I'm working with groups. One more. Good. So what I noticed with that was that it started to lighten and lift and open. Maybe a little breath started to move. Did you notice that, Stephen?
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and I do feel like there's like attention. My attention moves with each successive thing to different areas. Like it was more on the kind of throat area and towards the end there.
Yeah, exactly. And different forks resonate different areas. They resonate different feelings.
Hmm.
So now I'm just going to do another fork that might also resonate in different places. This one is 144 hertz, and this one will, just show us different things. So we'll just listen to a few of these. All right. What'd you notice for that one, Stephen?
I noticed that it felt like more heart area on that one. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I felt like there was also kind of similar, like some heaviness of a lot of the, just frankly, just witnessing of the collective violence and polarization that's happening.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah. Absolutely. And there was also in that one, there was some real tightness, that we're all kind of like, ooh. We've all, so many of us have had to like keep our mouth shut or in the political correctness of things and also just having to kind of do our very best to keep calm and carry on. But that often involves a kind of tightening or suppression or knuckling down, to try to
mhm.
stay strong. Okay, so this fork has a very different flavor, whereas those forks are going to want to show you the patterns of things that are tight. This particular frequency, 222 hertz, loves you just the way you are and just invites you to be present with how you're feeling, to just relax into how you're feeling, that we're all human. None of us need to be Christ or Buddha. We can really just let ourselves feel whatever we're feeling instead of trying to hold it back and down and in. Just the allowance. To me, the medicine of these times is to really give ourselves permission to feel whatever we're feeling because it's intense. And I think sometimes in the spiritual movement, there's sort of this expectation that we're all supposed to be enlightened or something and stay in perfect order even in the midst of chaos and collapse. And my work is very much not about that. It's about feel, express, allow, and let it move through. Because knowing that it's this tension and trying to hold things back that disrupts the functioning of the physiology. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's listen to this one. It makes me start to wiggle. Okay, so we're going to do just a few more of these, but I want to combine it with breath and sound. Now, this is silent sound, but it still has the same effect. What I want you to do is, with each inhale that you do, I want you to think the sound ah. So just breathing in, thinking ah as you're listening to the fork, and then think ah on the exhale. Now, if you want to sound ah on the exhale, you can do that too. But really all you have to do is think it. And so we're just going to do a few breaths. And as you do this ah inhale, you want to imagine that the breath you're breathing in is illuminated and that it's carrying the sound to all different parts of your body. Okay, so we'll just do a few of these while you do the ah breath. Here we go. Okay, last one. Okay. All right. Okay. What do you notice for that, Stephen, with that fork and the ah breath?
Yeah. Well, I definitely, when we first went into that fork, I had some, I didn't quite have tears, but I could feel like them kind of welling up a little bit, that sense of like, oh, it's like not trying to be something different, than what
Yeah.
is. And I could feel, yeah, just other like, it's funny. I also felt sensitized to when I felt like something shifted in you. Like I would notice like you would have like a little hitch in your breath or something, then like something would release in me. So it's like I could feel like a sense of linkage to you too, which is interesting.
Hmm. Well, my mind is definitely part of the equation. I've been doing this for 30 years now, and I've worked with so many groups. And there's the fork broadcast. my experience as well, and my ability to go into that deep listening, that quiet and reactive
Hmm.
place. So every time I tune a group, I also get a tuning as
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
Nice. So one question that kind of comes up, I mean, if you want to keep going with the next fork, I
Well,
could.
I can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I feel
ahead.
like
Yeah,
we
go
should
ahead.
do
Go ahead with
one
the
more.
next fork. I can keep.
Let's just do
I
one more.
always get so curious with you to ask questions, but let's keep with the experience.
All right. So the last one we're going to do is 528 hertz. There is some people out there who claim that 528 is the frequency of love. I don't really buy that. I think all frequencies are the frequency of love when they're in tune, when they're coherent, when there's no noise in the signal. The ground state of life itself is what we would call love. The heart math points to the coherent emotions like love, gratitude, appreciation, compassion. And when we're in those feeling states, we are in alignment with nature and the natural field. So that's why we want to do all we can to bring ourselves into this alignment with nature, alignment with the music of the spheres of the cosmos, which is really perfect. And that's the signal that we want to attune to. There's so much noise in the collective signal, never mind our own. And it makes it difficult to tune into that channel, if you will. So this one is just an invitation to remember that you are connected to the cosmos, that you were created perfectly imperfect as a human, and that this is when we get more in alignment with our own true tone, with the tone of nature, we experience more ease in life.
Hmm.
It just becomes less of a struggle. That even when we're dealing with difficult things, we can still find our flow through it and not get so rattled. Because when we get rattled, that causes cell death, it causes a breakdown in the physiology. So the more that we can keep our inner engine running cool and smooth, the healthier our body will be. Okay, so just a few of the 528.
Hmm.
You can do more ah breathing if you like with this one. Really let your breath go to any places that you're still noticing are tight or held in. Just breathe the sound and the light just into every cell, into every water molecule in your body. Let those tight nerves start to soften and release. Bunched muscles start to feel like it's okay to let down. All into deep into the fibers of, especially wherever you know you have tension or pain or fear or anxiety. Just really let the sound and your breath just help that to loosen and open. Just create a little more space inside. Okay, last one. You might want to shake or wiggle or stretch or yawn or make some sound. Yeah, there you go, Stephen. That's it.
Hmm.
Yeah, good. Yay. Okay, one more nice big ah breath, as big as you can make it, and maybe make that ah sound on the exhale. Yeah, good. All right. What do you notice about?
Nice.
How do you
Yeah.
feel?
I mean, I like the permission to just kind of keep letting different things because I'll notice like my attention will go to like a little like oh a little area of the jaw or something, and then it'll start to kind of release or open, and then it's sort of you can feel that it's almost like little dominoes, kind of like one area sort of opens another area in the body or something, and so yeah, shaking it out feels like it's just kind of letting all the patterns move more quickly or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very natural response. Like when we work on animals, if I work on a dog and I finish the adjustment, they will always shake. When they're done, they'll shake and then they'll go get a drink of water. And that, they just do that naturally. Sometimes we have to coach humans to do it, but oftentimes, especially people who are more somatically aware, more free, it just arises naturally in you,
Hmm.
and it helps to de-pattern, right? Because this is all our experience of self is these patterns, and very often we self-identify with our wounds, with these patterns of holding, and so to be able to go in there and to release them, relax them, allow energy to start to circulate, we start to feel more free, really, on every level.
Hmm.
And I think that's what we're all looking for, whether we realize it or not.
Hmm. So I want to ask a little bit more about this sort of the daily, weekly kind of rhythm of this. So obviously you're doing this, you're still releasing patterns, things come up from life experience. So how often do you just kind of approach it more like a daily shower where you're sort of doing a retuning or clearing different forks? Maybe share a little bit how you kind of design a kind of electrical health program over time.
Hmm. That's a great question. Well, I make use of many different tools that I've created over the years. Certainly, my understanding of the biofield anatomy, that if my body starts to ache or hurt or give me a little pushback anywhere, I understand that that is my body kind of going out of alignment with my mind, with my soul, with my spirit. So I'll check, what is my right knee? Oh, I'm feeling blocked moving forward. What do I need to do to go into more of a state of flow instead of feeling like I'm bumping up against something? So just the awareness of the biofield anatomy alone is really, really helpful. I created a tuning fork called the Sonic Slider that is based in the Schumann resonance, the background electromagnetic pulse of the earth. And this is a tool for self-care, a weighted fork that you put on yourself, and it helps just entrain you do that environmental pulse. It's 7.83 hertz times 12. That's 93.96 hertz. So I use the My Sonic Slider just about every day. I also use voice. As you know, I work with the brothers Corin, and we've created a whole bunch of different songs of tones that resonate in different parts of the body. So I make use of
Hmm.
that, which is super helpful. I think when the world is kind of crazy and unhinged, it can make us feel that way. And so our mind needs sort of guardrails or guide rails, or I think of a train on a monorail, to help keep us in alignment, to help keep us centered and straight and regulated. And that's really what all my tools, all of my approaches, everything that I do is really geared towards keeping you in the straight and narrow of
Hmm.
yourself, keeping yourself in alignment, in integrity, and stopping you from sort of unraveling because it's so easy to do when we're under pressure.
Hmm.
Fundamentally, I would say so much is connected to our breath and how full and free and easy our breathing is. Every emotion that you feel, think about how when you're anxious, what your breathing is doing. Or think about how when you're lying on a beach with a pina colada and it's a beautiful day and you have no worries, what is your breathing doing there, right? That's such an ah place.
Hmm.
So I use the ah breath very regularly. Sometimes I'll just sit with this 222 hertz fork. This is such a great companion for meditation. I think it's really hard to sit and be quiet for a lot of people. And if you just throw this fork into the mix, it immediately brings you into this sort of one pointed awareness where you're like, I'm just listening to this and I'm being with it. And I'm letting the coherence of the fork inform the coherence of my own electrical system.
Hmm.
So just sitting for a few minutes with a fork like this, doing an ah breath, can really just bring you back into your center, can reset your breath so that it feels more liberated and free and easy. So much the quality of your breath is really reflective of the quality of your life, quite
Hmm.
honestly. And so many people subconsciously hold their breath or shallow breathe because of these patterns of tension that are subconscious, right? From every micro and macro trauma we've ever had, there's often some kind of lock in the diaphragm and the shoulders and the belly. And so as we start to unlock and relax and release these places, and the breath becomes more free, and we get more energy into our electrical system because we're really breathing charge. And this is something that people don't necessarily realize, that our atmosphere is a plasma, which means it's a carrier of electric charge. So when you breathe in and your blood goes from dark red to bright red, that's because you are breathing in light. Right? We talk about going to the beach to recharge in the ionized environment where there's more electricity in the air from the salt water and the waves, or a waterfall in the forest, right? And this sense of recharging, it's because the air literally does have more charge. And it's the charge in the air that is going into your blood, that is going into your cells, that's fueling your mitochondria, that's fueling your electrical system. So our breath is the primary instrument to feed our electrical system. And if people get tired at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it's generally an indication that you are not breathing fully, that you have a tendency to lock the diaphragm, lock the shoulders, and overthink, which is what most people do without even realizing it. And so if we can interrupt that pattern and get the breath to become more free and open, then it provides a more steady stream of energy to our electrical system all day.
That also gives another good reason why working with the voice and the tuning forks is important too, because then you're bringing more consciousness to your vocal expression too.
Exactly, and we energize ourselves with our own voice when we learn to use our voice where it's coming from our whole body. This is the work that I do with the Brothers Corin, is this getting the voice to be embodied. Because if we're just using our voice and we're talking up here in our heads, then there's no current of energy happening in the body. So this is also part of the work, is teaching you how to use your own voice as a medium of healing, even just your speaking voice, if you learn to kind of move around inside. Plus, it makes you more interesting to listen to if your voice has a lot of nuance and fluctuation coming from your whole body instrument.
Yeah, I pick up on that myself with speakers all the time. It's interesting to get the electrical health perspective on that as well. Well, Eileen, it's always just revelatory to talk to you, and also just very reassuring and grounding. And there's a way all of the complexity really gets reduced to very simple principles that we can apply in ways that really make a big difference. So let's talk about how people can go deeper into this work and really make some of the profound shifts and engage some of the healing with your upcoming course. We're very excited about this. Oftentimes we can only get Eileen to do like a 5-week course. We got a whole 7-week course with her. It's going to be a good deep dive into these principles and practices of electrical health. So the course is called Electric Health Through Sound: Restore Your Body's Coherence with Tuning Forks, Breath, and Voice for Vitality and Whole Body Balance. You can find it at the URL electricalhealthcourse.com. Eileen, I'd love for you to share some of your intentions for what people will come away with, and then let's go through the modules and give a little preview of what you'll be teaching in each.
I started on the self-help path back in 1987 when I was 18. And I spent decades reading books, getting Nightingale Conant courses on CD, I think on cassette way back then. I tried so many different approaches to solve the problems that I was struggling with. And I had a lot of problems. I had chronic pain, chronic inflammation, I had miserable digestion, I had low energy. I had strife. I had domestic strife. I had poverty consciousness. I was just a very uncomfortable, very unhappy person trying desperately to get out of my own way and become healthy, happy, and abundant. And it didn't seem to matter how many books I read or courses I took. I just wasn't getting anywhere. And of course, I thought that there was something wrong with me. I'm like availing myself to all of this information for decades and just going around in circles and not solving any of these problems. But in 2010, everything changed. And what changed was I started training my very first group of students in Biofield Tuning, a group of clients and friends who bullied me into teaching them because they really wanted to learn, even though I didn't feel ready yet. But that presented me with the opportunity to actually receive tuning, which I had spent 14 years working on other people and never experienced it myself. And at the same time, I discovered plasma, the fourth state of matter, which I had never learned about. And then that gave me insight and understanding that the body has an electrical system. And I had never come across this before. And I was told we live in a world of solid, liquid, and gas, and the body is chemical and mechanical. And as long as I was living in that realm, in that cosmological framework, I was not fixing anything. But as soon as I started to get tuned, and as soon as I started to understand the electrical system and what creating a healthy electrical system looked like, because this is primary in our body. Chemistry occurs downstream of electricity, right? They say physics rules the sciences. Physics is the precursor to chemistry. And so that's what's happening here. We're doing a vibrational interaction with the body's electrical system. As we said, getting the noise out of the signal, rewiring things back into a more coherent, anatomically correct flow, helping the system to digest and integrate painful experiences. And I had a very difficult traumatic childhood that had created a lot of contraction and compression and tension in my body. And so over the years that followed, and I continued to receive sessions, I just started working through those layers. And within those areas of tension is energy. It's energy that isn't available to you to move and to do things or to bust that pile of clutter or to start that or finish that creative project, because that energy is tied up in tension. But when we release the tension, we allow the tissues to soften, the electrical current that was frozen to move back into flow. Suddenly you have more of yourself available to you. So over the course of a few years, I was able to completely fix my digestion. I can eat anything I want now and literally heal every single ailment that I was struggling with. So I have the good fortune right now of being 57 years old and not having any pain or health issues at all. And not only did it work in the physical body, but also relationally. It changed the quality of my relationship with my husband. It helped get rid of poverty consciousness. That is also tension, whether we realize it or not. When we have abundance issues and we have contraction around money, it arrests flow. And so the more we can just learn to stay at an open and flowing state, what we need tends to come to us. So I would say that that electric health is so much easier than chemical and mechanical health. And so many of the things that help us are free. It's just really sort of a different lens to look at things through. And when you start taking care of your electrical system, then the body fixes itself.
Such a key point. Really amazing. So let's go through the modules quickly and just give a taste of what you'll be teaching in each. So module 1 is called Foundations of Electric Health. Reduce the world's noise to feel quiet and calm inside.
Mm-hmm. So in that one, we'll be exploring what the biofield is, sort of the anatomy and physiology, the science of it, if you will. In each module, I'll be doing some teaching, introducing an idea, a perspective, a different lens to look through. And then I'll be doing a tuning to help support that. So the very first tuning is just to start the process of settling down your adrenals, your heart rate, your brain waves, just getting everything to come into a more rested and relaxed expression.
Module 2, explore your biofield to deepen your perception skills and learn to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm. In that module, we're going to go deep into the biofield anatomy map. So you'll get to learn, you've got an ache or a pain or an ailment in a particular area, what the frame of mind is that may be informing that. And even for people who've already learned about the biofield anatomy, I'm always getting new insights and maybe better ways to explain it. So there's still plenty to learn there, even if you already know the biofield anatomy map.
Module 3, expand your breath to open up your mind, consciousness, and sphere of influence.
Mm-hmm. So in this one, we're going to work on releasing patterns of tension in the diaphragm, in the lungs, in the intercostal muscles, in the shoulders, the places where we've locked down and maybe gone into self protection, freeze, and just really get that whole experience of breath to open more, to move more, to breathe into the whole body, to inform all the water in us, all of the electricity in us, with just more light and more energy, more prana, if you will.
Module 4, assess whether a health issue is electrical or chemical for more targeted thyroid and hormone support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this is also part of this whole process of re-educating ourselves to not think chemically. This is a real invitation to learn to think electrically. I went through menopause, for example, and I never once thought or spoke the word hormones because I was looking at the experience through an electric lens instead and supporting my electrical system through that. And I was able to breeze through menopause because of that. Right? So this is a real relanguaging and shifting of perspective into a completely different framework.
Module 5, choose foods that support healthy gut rhythm, vagal toning, and the electrical environment of digestion.
Mm-hmm. So this is also an interesting reframe where we start looking at our digestion as electrical fermentation and understanding that your body is taking the light, that the embodied light that is in food, and that's what's going to your cells. And so understanding that if we want to be light, we have to eat light, and what does that look like? And this is something that culture's understood, right? Why do we have fermented foods or sourdough bread or yogurt or kefir or sauerkraut or kimchi? These are fermented foods that already have that electrical activity in them that supports the electric digestive process.
Module 6, cultivate language and thought patterns that carry electrical signatures to positively shape your physiology.
Our words and our thoughts are so creative, like much more than we realize. That the quality of every thought you think, every word you speak, is informing the water in your body. Some of you may be familiar with the work of Veda Austin, and she shows so clearly how thoughts and words inform the way that water takes shape. And we're mostly water, and water is so impressionable. And so we're really going to do a deep dive here into understanding the power of our word, the power of our thoughts to shape our bodies in a healthy way.
And finally, week 7, integrate breath, food, and the power of your mind and sound into a sustainable daily electric health practice.
Yeah, so in this one, we're just going to look at like what does a day in the life of someone who's taking care of their electric health look like? One of the things that I really like to do is make things simple, easy, doable, automatic. I don't like complicated things. I know people don't like to stick with complicated things. So I'm always boiling things down to the simplest approach that is the most effective, the smallest investment, the largest return. And so we'll just go through a day of how do you feed your electric body? How do you feed your electric soul? Because I would say, Stephen, that what we call our biofield, our body's electrical system, the light that animates you, is the same thing that we call our soul. That they're really one and the same. And this whole concept of the biofield is this beautiful bridge between science and spirituality. And so essentially at the end of the day, it's about how do you feed your soul and express your soul.
Love it. Well, such brilliant teachings and such practical guidance on how to really take care of our electrical health. And it's really timely for the time we're in as well. So I'll share a little bit more about it. Again, the whole program is at electrichealthcourse.com. If you choose to move forward, you'll get the 7 90-minute live sessions with Eileen that we just described, as well as time to ask your questions live. You'll get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to support you in study and ongoing practices. There's weekly exercises for home. There's a community group to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. And on the page, you'll also see there are a number of extra bonuses that Eileen's been generous to include as well. There's a bonus called Improving Mitochondrial Function, which is an hour long. You want to share more about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, whenever I do these recorded sessions, it's always a kind of exploration because I'm not a doctor and I don't have a deep understanding of cellular functioning. But I am able to see and hear, again, in this sort of LiDAR kind of way where I'm just bouncing sound off a structure and listening to the ping back, and I see things in my mind. And what I observe with the mitochondria, and I think this is very key for so many people, was what I observed is that man-made electromagnetic waves interfere with mitochondrial function. And it basically what mitochondria is supposed to do is be squishy. It's got that sort of compression and release kind of activity. But when it gets the interference from all the waves that we're all subjected to, it loses that squishiness. And then what tends to happen is an accumulation of heavy metals and then mold. And so when I did this particular session, it was like our mitochondria was sort of encased in black goo that was inhibiting its function. And I think this plays a very big role in why people get chronically exhausted. And so that particular session goes in and it helps to jumpstart the mitochondrial function, get it back into its pulsing rhythmic nature, which then helps to get rid of the mold and the heavy metals. And that session can be surprisingly energizing for people.
Amazing. That's just one bonus. So there's another bonus called the sundial. You want to share more about that audio experience?
Mm-hmm. So that is a session where I go around the perimeter of the field, of the torus of the field, and I move in as if I'm moving in on a clock face. So 12 o'clock, I bring energy into the solar plexus, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So we go all around the field, and everything is this movement towards center. And what this session does is really one of my favorite sessions, is it quiets the thinking mind. That after you listen to this session, you might have your mind start to do its thing. And then all of a sudden you'll feel it just come back into the center of your being. So it's a real invitation into our bodies, into now, into the center of our being. And again, this is something that we really need because the pressure of life and our reluctance to feel our feelings tends to send the mental body into overdrive. And so this is a super antidote for the overdriven mental body, just quieting things down.
What a cool bonus that is as well. So, and then there's a third bonus that is your bonus if you sign up right away by midnight tonight Pacific time. This gives you extra incentive to go through the page, tune in, and make your decision now. It's called Rapid Adrenal Renewal. This is another audio experience from Eileen. You want to share more about today's special bonus?
Mm-hmm. So that one is there's just 30 minutes because I know not everybody's got time to sit through an hour. So it's just a 30-minute touch base with both of your adrenals, kidney adrenal complex, because when we're stressed, our adrenal rhythm starts going faster and faster. And it isn't always easy to snap out of that. And you can't necessarily talk yourself down out of an accelerated adrenal rhythm. So this is just a simple guided meditation with the tuning forks that tunes into the adrenals and just helps that rhythm to ratchet back down into a more appropriate range. And it does it pretty quickly. So if you're really stressed about something, this is something that you can just put on and listen to. And 30 minutes later, you'll find that you're just breathing more freely and that you don't feel as amped up as you were before.
That's a great extra reason to sign up right away with the Rapid Adrenal Renewal. So, Eileen, what an awesome course this is. I'm super excited for this for everybody who gets a chance to join with you. We've kept the investment very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128. You save 10% when you pay in full with one price of $349. So course starts on May 12th and runs Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, and that's 8 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's so many great testimonials from people who just love Eileen at Shift, also eminent authorities in the field, best-selling authors. Everybody raves about her work. So you're in really good hands, and you're going to get something that really gives results, as her own experience and the experience of thousands of students testifies to. So again, it's all at electrichealthcourse.com, electrichealthcourse.com, and you'll get that special bonus by midnight tonight of the Rapid Adrenal Renewal. So Eileen, it's Always such a pleasure to be with you, and I feel all tuned up just from our experience time as well. So really great stuff. Anything that's on your heart that you still want to share with people who are considering joining you for the course?
Hmm. Well, I do feel, Stephen, you all have often asked me to teach classes, and now I was like, oh, I can't, I'm too busy. And when you asked me to teach this one, I really felt like that I needed to. That the way the world is and the way that it looks like we're going, that people need all the support that they can get, really to stop ourselves from unraveling, coming unglued. And so that's my aim and intention, is just to help support you through a difficult time in the world, a stressful time in the world. I love community. I love the community that gathers in these courses, and I'm active on the Facebook group. Just really happy to be able to help at this time with stuff that I know from experience really does help a lot to just get you more in order and more resilient and better able to just make it through the day. So I'm very actually honored to be able to teach this at this time.
Well, it couldn't be more timely. Super grateful that you're offering this course. And again, it's all at electrichealthcourse.com, and you get that special adrenal bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight. And what a blessing. Thank you, Eileen. Thank you all for joining. Many blessings.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks, everyone.